Join me today on Walk with History from Nantucket, Massachusetts.
There once was a ship that put to sea. The name of the ship was the Billy O.T. The winds blew up her bow, dipped down, all below my bully boys blow.
Hi, Jenn at Walk with History. I'm here today standing in front of the Whaling Museum in Nantucket, Massachusetts. Probably one of the busiest museums here as well, because it's really close to the waterfront, really close to where the ferry comes in, and because of the history of whaling in Nantucket. Nantucket was the whaling capital for many years before New Bedford takes it over. It's because of the location here on Nantucket, and environmentally, whales used to be very close to the island and wash up on the island. That's when whaling first started. But as the whales got over-harvested, they had to, of course, venture further and further out. And eventually, when we talk about the Essex, it has gone all the way around South America into the Pacific to whale, because the whales no longer migrate in this area after being hunted so much. But this town was made on whaling. So all the captains, the shipboat owners, mansions, money, all of that whale oil money that was coming in, because that was the process by which lamps were lit, the Industrial Revolution machinery was lubricated, candles, makeup, things were made from the spermaceti found in whale heads. And so whaling was just a very, very lucrative for economics at the time, because it was utilized by everyone in America. So we're going to go inside the museum. I can't take video, but I can take pictures. They have the only artifact from the Essex in there, plus they explain whaling, and I will explain it to you. And then I'll take you to where Captain Pollard of the Essex lived, and Herman Melville, when he came here in 1852 after writing Moby Dick, met Pollard, the one and only time. So you can see the Whaling Museum off to my right. You can see it has the weather vane up there with the whale. Super cool. So when we talk about whaling, how does whaling work exactly? Remember, what's the difference between a boat and a ship? A boat goes on a ship. So a whaling ship has 5 whaling boats on it, little rowboats where 6 men will be in the boat. And you have a harpooner, and you have different men with oars that go out and hunt the whale. In the beginning on the whaling ship, there'll be about 20 men on a whaling ship, and they'll be in the crow's nest, and they'll say, "There she blows." They'll be able to spot a whale out there. Now, the most sought after whale is the sperm whale. Even though they hunt gray whales, they hunt fin whales, they're going to hunt right whales, it's the sperm whale they want, because it has the big head, and in the big head is the spermaceti in the brain, and that is where they use, it's like a thicker oil, and that's how they make makeup and candles. Each whaling ship has about 150 harpoons on it. It's just big metal poles with like a hook on the end, and they're trying to hook it into the whale, and it has a long rope tethered to it. So once they hook it into the whale's going to run. It's called the Nantucket sleigh ride. They're going to take all the men for a ride, and you're trying to tire out the whale. Now, could a whale dive? Yes, it could. And then you're going to cut the rope so that you don't have to worry about it. And then if you have to always be watching for people's legs and arms and feet, because if they're tied up in the rope, they'll get pulled overboard. And that's what happens to Ahab in Moby Dick. Once the whale is tired from that Nantucket sleigh ride, they pull themselves closer to the whale and start to stab him in the lungs. And when they start to see blood come out of the blowhole, they yell "chimneys of fire," which means the whale's about to die. The whale will turn in circles and its tail will sputter, and that's called the flurry right before a whale dies, and then it'll die on its side. Then they will tow the whale back to the ship, or the ship will come to where the whale is, and they'll pull up the whale on the starboard side with some chains, and then they start to harvest the whale, cut the whale. And so they're getting the blubber off the side of the whale, and they put in these big iron, big cauldrons on the ship, and they call them tryworks. And they're going to boil down the whale blubber to oil, and then put it in these big barrels and collect the whale oil for the people in America to use for their lamps and to lubricate their gears for the Industrial Revolution. Process about, I'd say, 10 to 12 whales. That's a full cargo before you can come home. And when we talk about the Essex, 1820, they had to go all the way around South America up into the Pacific to find the whales because they had been so harvested here in the New England area that they just weren't any here to hunt anymore. But that is the whaling process.
Whale did go. Soon may the wellerman come to bring us sugar and tea and rum. One day when the tonguing is done, we'll take our leave and go. As far as I've heard, the fight's still on, the line's not cut, and the whale's not gone.
So when Herman Melville was here, this was considered the Ocean House Hotel, now the Jared Coffin House. And his room overlooked Pollard's house, which is this red house behind me here that says 7 Seas on it. So his room overlooked that house. So his room was one of these front window rooms you see behind me. So this was George Pollard's home. Built by Captain William Block in 1760, later owned by Captain George Pollard of the whaling ship Essex. Pollard and Melville spoke to Captain Pollard, the basis of Moby Dick. He was the captain of the Essex, which is the inspiration for Moby Dick. And then Herman Melville stayed over here at the Jared Coffin House when he came to visit Nantucket in 1852. And then he meets Pollard one time. But this is all after he's already written Moby Dick. Now this is the house where Herman Melville is going to stay when he visits Nantucket. Now he only visits Nantucket one time in 1852 after he's already written Moby Dick. And remember, he writes Moby Dick when he hears the stories about the Essex. The Essex is a whaling ship from Nantucket. Captain is from Nantucket, and it's a ship that's destroyed by a whale. And the men barely survived. There's 8 men that survived. I'll tell you the story of what happened with the Essex. Now, when we talk about the Essex, this is the ship that's going to inspire Moby Dick. Is this the only ship that's destroyed by a whale? No, but it's the one that inspires Moby Dick because it's the one where Herman Melville will hear the story from the son of one of the survivors and get to read his account of it. And so he bases Moby Dick on that story of the Essex. So the Essex was a whaling ship from here in Nantucket, launched in 1799, but this faithful voyage happened November 20th, 1820, under the command of George Pollard when it was attacked and sunk. So it was sunk on November 20th, 1820. Now, it was supposed to be a 2.5-year voyage. Most whaling ships were at least 2-year voyages because they have to go all the way around the Horn of South America and then into the west coast of South America, and that's where they were when this happened. They're pursuing a pod of sperm whales, and once it's attacked and the whaling ship is destroyed, the 20 men split up into the 3 whaling boats that are left. 2, they don't have the other 5. It's already been a year since they've been out to sea and things have been destroyed. After the ship is destroyed by the sperm whale, it has rammed the ship so many times it actually broke in half and it sank. They split themselves up into the 3 whaling boats. Pollard is in one, his first mate's in another, taking command, and his second mate is in another, taking command. And then the men split up. Pollard, of course, has his cousin, and they ration out the water. They could have went towards some islands that were towards Tahiti, but they didn't want to go in that direction because they feared cannibalism. In reality, that wouldn't have happened, but they had the fear of that, so they didn't go towards there. And in the end, about a month after they've been out to sea, they find themselves at Henderson Island. Henderson Island is really not much of an island. It's like a little coral reef, but they have some fresh water, some birds, and some eggs, and they deplete the island of all of it. The men are starving by this time, and they leave 3 men on the island. The men they leave on the island are not native Nantucketers. They don't really know how to sail. One of them is very sick, and the other men go in the 3 boats. Now, Two of the boats are eventually rescued. One has 2 men in it. That's Pollard's boat. It's Pollard and another man, not his cousin who was with him. His cousin did pull lots to see who they would eat, and his cousin pulled the lot. Pollard tried to fight with him, saying, no, it should be me, and he insisted and shot himself. And Pollard had a message to give his mother when he got home. Pollard sent a ship back to Henderson Island to retrieve those 3 men. So 8 men of the 20-man crew survived, and some were died and buried at sea, and some were eaten for the crew to survive, including Pollard's family member. And the only artifact from the Essex, one of the first mates had the piece of twine. That is here in the Whaling Museum. But yeah, it's just a very sad story of survival. And it's also a story of when a whale fought back.
The name of the ship was the Billy O.T. The winds blew up her bow, dipped down, all below my bully boys blow. Soon may the Wellerman come to bring us.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that taste of Nantucket. We went to the Whaling Museum. We went to some of the places from Moby Dick and just walked around the town so you could see it. It's a cute little town, very busy, but cute little town. On to my next Walk with History.
Soon may the Wellerman come to bring us sugar and tea and rum. One day when the tonguing is done, we'll take our leave.